Back in 2015, I spent some time in Germany visiting my son who lived there. While we did eat at home quite a bit, we also ate out quite often. I found that one of my favorite meals was Jagerschnitzel. So today, I'm making that for you. Hi, thanks for joining me today on Susan's Cozy Kitchen. Jagerschnitzel is not a difficult entree, but it is a little time consuming, so let's get right into the video. Okay, the first thing to do, pound the pork chops. So I've let these sit out for a little bit on the counter and warm up. They're a little easier to pound if you do that. This is pretty thick, it's about an inch thick. Flip it over and pound it on both sides. Alright, there we go. It's nice and pounded out. It's pretty thin. And we're ready to move on to the next thing. Now, next up, egg in one nice big shallow bowl. I'm going to beat an egg. I always like to season in layers, so I'm going to add a little bit of salt and a little pepper to the egg. And then over here, in goes my cup of breadcrumbs and a tablespoon of just all-purpose flour. And then I'm also going to season this, so more salt, and it's just to taste. So a little salt, some black pepper, and stir that together. And then let it drip just a little, and over here into the breadcrumbs. Start it on one side, flip it. I like to kind of scoop the breadcrumbs up and tap them onto that so that there's a nice layer of breadcrumbs on both sides. And now I'm going to put it out onto the plate. Next, it's time to cook the schnitzel. I have my frying pan heating up on medium-high, and I just have some vegetable oil that I'm going to pour in and let that start getting hot. While that's heating, I'm going to go ahead and start chopping an onion so that as soon as I take the meat out of the pan, I'm ready to get going with the gravy. This is getting hot, the oil's starting to shimmer and make little waves, so it is ready to start cooking. I'm going to just very carefully transfer this into the oil. Okay. And oh, you see the smoke. This is cooking quickly, which is what you want it to do. You want it to get that sear, but you don't want it to burn. Now, I'm afraid I may have gotten that a little hot. Hopefully it doesn't burn. All right, let's give it a flip. Got it flipped now. It's a little over brown in that area, but it's gonna be fine. It only takes a few minutes to get the meat cooked. I've got a fresh plate to put it on. All right, this is looking really good. It's browned on both sides. I'm going to grab my instant read thermometer, pop it in there, make sure that it did cook all the way through. When you need to take the temperature of something like this, go in from the side because you can't go down in. You need the probe to go in at least an inch. So you just go in from the side and just push it in. And it is going up nice and quickly. Pork is safe to eat at 145 and it's already up to 150. So I know that the pork is done, no worries. Now I'm going Gonna have to clean my pan because I do have some burned stuff in here and I don't want that in my gravy. So let me clean this out and I'll be right back. Okay, clean pan, I'm back again. Heating this a little less than I did the first time around. Ideally, you want to use the pan drippings to make your gravy. Well, I had the burned crumbs in there, so I couldn't do that. So what I'm doing to kind of make up for that, have a couple of tablespoons of butter, real butter, that I'm going to melt in the pan. Then I'm going to add a little bit of flour to it and let that start to brown. And then I will proceed with the recipe as normal. This is what I'm having to do today because I made a mistake, but I'm not going to redo the whole video so that I look perfect, because let me tell you guys, I'm not, far from it. So here's the butter melting. And it's always good to know what to do when things like this happen. I'm keeping it real with you guys, and I'm showing you, what I would do if I was making this for my family, and that happened because it's happened before and I've had to do this, and this method works out well. So there's that. Going to sprinkle, that was maybe a tablespoon of flour in here, and I'm just going to cook that in the butter, stir it around, kind of make a little paste out of it. And I'll stir that until it starts, or I'll cook this until it starts turning a nice light brown. It'll only take a minute or so. Since this doesn't have the seasonings in it from before, I'm going to add just a little bit of salt and a grind or two of pepper into it also, just to flavor my base. Just going to cover this with some foil so that it retains its heat while I'm cooking this. All right, that's browned, sort of a nice golden toast brown. Again, if I didn't have to do this, if you were just putting it into the drippings from the meat, you wouldn't be worrying about what color the flour turned because you wouldn't be adding any flour to it. Okay, there are the onions. I've got them in. And now the mushrooms. Now I'm going to let these hang out in here and cook until they are getting brown and starting to wilt down some. Give it a little stir every now and then. Okay, the mushrooms are getting some nice color on them. The onion is cooking down. It's looking really good. So I'm going to move on now to the next part, which is some of the bouillon. A teaspoon of this is equal to a bouillon cube. And I'm going to pour 1.5 cups of water in here so that that will start to dissolve. So I will bring it to a boil, and then I will turn it down and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. You want to let everything start cooking down and those flavors to start intensifying. It's come up to a boil. I've turned it down and I'm just going to let it simmer for a while. Okay, while this is simmering, let's go ahead and get the sour cream ready to go into that at the very end. This is just a nice, simple way to thicken the gravy at the end and add some extra flavoring. I have 1/2 cup of sour cream, a tablespoon of cornstarch, just pop that in there, and then with a fork I'll just mix the cornstarch into the sour cream. I've turned this way down so that it's not boiling, it's barely even simmering at this point, because you don't want to boil your sour cream. So turn it down so that it's not doing anything, and scoop your sour cream in there, and then gently stir it in. And you want it to still be cooking, but you don't want it to boil. So So as low as your heat will go is where you want that set at this point. And I will have all of this information in the description box below with the recipe and oh yeah, links to my social media if you would like to follow me on Facebook or Instagram. So that you don't stress when you make this gravy, when you add the sour cream into your broth and the mushrooms and the onions, your gravy will go from being a nice pretty brown to almost a mushroom color. Don't let that worry you. That's the color it's supposed to be. It's okay, you didn't do anything bad when it starts looking more gray than golden brown. So since this is for my son and I haven't cooked mine yet, I'm not going to taste it on camera for you, and I will taste the gravy for you. So here's, you get a little piece of, okay, there we are. I've got some onion and a piece of mushroom and plenty of gravy in there. Let it cool a little bit. If you love mushrooms, if you even like mushrooms, you're going to enjoy this gravy. And you'll see why they call it Jagerschnitzel. This is a nice hunter gravy. It's got that earthiness from the onions and the mushrooms. It's all a matter of cooking it low and slow. Adding that sour cream at the end just gives it a nice richness and again a little bit of that earthy flavor that is integral to being a Jagerschnitzel. Thank you for joining me today on Susan's Cozy Kitchen. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure and give it a thumbs up. If you've not already subscribed, please do so. And while you're there, make sure to hit that bell so that you are notified every time I upload a video to YouTube. Thanks for joining me today. God bless.